Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Coming off that Monday Night Football brutal loss, trying to put that in the rear view, get ready here for Week 3. Birds 365 is live. That's John McMullen. I'm Zander. Krause. We'll have two great guests on the show today. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, man? A little over 24 hours now removed from that brutal loss on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I see a lot of other people aren't doing fine, but yeah, I'm going to be just fine. I mean, look, it wasn't a good loss. I mean, but that the sky is falling, people. I do have to remind them it is 2 weeks. I'm not ready to bail on the season because of one disappointing loss. But evidently a lot of people are. So, that's what you like. That's what you like.
Well, I do think there were some concerning things from that game, but good to hear the voice of reason tell me, it's all good. It's just 2 weeks. They can get this thing back on the track. But John, I want to start with my most concerning takeaway from the game on Monday. We had a lot to talk about the coaching and the play call and the Saquon drop. And, I was hard on Jalen Hurts for that last drive and all sorts of different things. I think the real biggest concern coming out of that game that's not an overreaction is that defense is a problem. They're 32nd right now in run defense. They can't get after the quarterback at all. That is not a recipe for winning games in this league for a team that has really big aspirations and big expectations. I don't just think on the outside, but also internally. That's a problem. What do you think of that defensive? Really, the whole defense, but the defensive line and where we are with them coming out of week 2.
Well, it hasn't been good for 2 weeks, but again, I say it's 2 weeks. I mean, I get it from the standpoint of, and especially for people in my business, or that's what sells, right? That's what these grandiose proclamations after. I wish I could do it. I can't do it, because you're just going to look silly in a couple weeks. I mean, I saw Emmanuel Acho, who I love, God love him, say Howie Roseman didn't build this roster for Vic Fangio, and he's got to. I'm like, what, dude? I mean, you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong. So you can make these grandiose proclamations if you want. I get it. Everybody's going to forget it. Everybody's going to forget it. So it doesn't matter. Nobody's held accountable. It's stupid. I'll say it blatantly. They lost the game. They were 2 minutes away from being 2-0. Less than 2 minutes. They were a drop pass away from being 2-0. For the people that want to jump off the train, what if you're following the Dallas Cowboys? They're in the NFC East. Dallas is coming off a much worse performance where they look completely lost. And maybe the same thing will happen to the Eagles in the Superdome. Maybe. We'll see. I doubt it, but we'll see. And then the New York Giants and Washington Commanders aren't even relevant in your own division. And you want to bail on the season because Bryce Huff has had a couple shitty games?
Well, no, look, I get it. And you are right. So I do appreciate the voice of reason. But at the end of the day, it's not just Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff was brutal.
No, that's not.
Jaylen Carter didn't look good. Jaylen Davis doesn't look good. Josh Sweat looks all right. The whole defense is just getting absolutely shredded. And like I said, you can't go far if your defense can't stop anybody. If your defense can't stop the run, if they can't get after the quarterback. So, I do think the problems are a little bit bigger than 1 week if they can't turn it around. I mean, look, there's no field
on September 18th, and I got to look because it's damn schedule. I don't even know what day it is. On September 18th, guess what? They're not a Super Bowl team. They also don't have to be a Super Bowl team. If they continue to grow and figure some things out and get better and get better and get better and win the division and get into the dance and playing their best football. We saw what 10-1 did for you last year. Not much. I warned people there were going to be growing pains, especially on the defensive side of the football, all off season. And guess what? There are. Am I disappointed in the way? I'm way more disappointed in the way Jaylen Carter started this season because I expect more out of him.
Right.
Jordan Davis, same thing. You mentioned Josh Sweat. I know Josh Sweat. There's a big enough sample size.
I think he's been the better one, honestly. He hasn't gotten home, but I mean, he's been okay.
Yeah, you're right in that he's just been okay. But I know he's going to get better. I think I know Jaylen Carter's going to get better. He's got to get.
I think I know that one too. What about Bryce Huff though? Do you think he's going to get better?
Yes. How can he get worse?
He can't get worse, but boy, if he doesn't get better, that pass rush is going to be.
I've already seen it. He's played in the NFL. I realize every other team doesn't matter. He's played in the NFL. Right now, he's lacking a little confidence. He's chirping. He's probably not handling being under the microscope. Not probably, definitely not handling it well. He's already played in the NFL at a high level. They didn't wake up and let's give $51 million to this nut that's never played before, that's never proven thing. And there's film, there's tape. Everybody can look at it if they want to look at it. I know he can play to a certain level, and I certainly know he can play better than he has played. It's already out there. It's already proven. And I expect it. When do I expect it? I don't know. Hopefully his confidence isn't destroyed. And if he is, and he's that mentally, I don't want to say weak because that's a tough description, but if he can't handle it, he can't handle it, and you got to move on. And sometimes you make wrong decisions. But he's already played at a high level on limited snaps at the NFL level. So I've already seen it. The other stuff, you should know, you've been watching this defensive scheme for 4 years. There's going to be issues with communication on the back end. There's going to be blown coverages. There's going to be things of that nature. There's going to be ugliness. There's going to be giving up yards. There's going to be giving up rushing yards because you're trying to limit explosive plays. The problem is you're not limiting explosive plays enough while giving up the rushing yards. Do I expect it to improve? Yes. Is this a week? It's not the offense to try to do it against, at least the way they've been playing. So there's going to be more hiccups, but I'm going to be back here saying the same thing. I'm not giving up on the season after again 158 minutes. They're undefeated and everybody's fine, and you're talking about and a drop pass and everybody's fine, and giving up 15 points with all those issues on the defense. That's pretty good if they finish the job. They weren't able to finish the job, so that's how quickly things turn in this league. It's a parity-driven league. But yeah, I mean, and if anything, the division looks easier than maybe we all thought it was going to be. So the path to the playoffs is easy. Should be easy. What you do when you get there, that's a deeper question, obviously. And right now they're not ready, but it's September 18th.
Right.
So, the Chiefs, look at the Chiefs early in the season last year. You grow, and hopefully you're kicking in at the right time. I don't know if that's going to happen for the Eagles. I don't think they have enough talent on defense, to be honest, for it to happen.
I think that's become evident. And look, that's where I think Emmanuel Acho is going with the whole Howie thing. It's like, if Jaylen Carter doesn't play better, if Jordan Davis doesn't play better, if Bryce Huff doesn't play better, if Nakobe Dean doesn't play better, these are all what Howie's done to build this defense. If none of those guys can get it going, you can see why Howie would be in the spotlight on the defensive side of the football. Now, they're the 32nd defense in yards per play through 2 games. I'm not trying to panic. I get it. You're all right. It's September 18th. They can turn this thing around, especially coming off a year last year where you start so damn good and collapse at the end. You want to be playing your best football later in the year. But
any baseball nerd will tell you small sample sizes don't matter. Unfortunately, with the NFL, you never get to a large sample size like you do in baseball, where the back of the baseball card is the old, that's what you are, because you play so many games and you play day after day and all that kind of stuff. And the NFL, it's never like that because you have an unbalanced schedule. You don't play that many games.
Right.
But the longer you get into it, the more it starts to even out and you start looking like the back of your football card. And I think that's going to happen with the Eagles defensive front. But yeah, and talent's probably not the word I should have used because, obviously Jaylen Carter's got talent. Obviously Jordan Davis has got talent. Even Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith have talent. So that's probably the wrong word. I don't know if they're equipped at this stage of the game to play championship level football. So however you want to phrase that, and they certainly haven't looked like it. And I'm disappointed by, and now maybe people see the importance of, probably not, but Fletcher Cox and having that steadying presence and guy you can count on, the rock, but they don't have that foundation anymore on the defensive front. They do to a certain extent outside with Brandon, but not inside. You got a bunch of young guys who are kind of feeling their way, and it doesn't look pretty right now.
Well, no, it doesn't look pretty at all. And really the expectation when you lose guys like Fletcher Cox and then you lose your best pass rusher, Hassan Reddick, the plan was Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith would make up for Hassan Reddick. Neither of them look like they can do a damn thing. By the way, you told me about that chip block Bijan Robinson had on Nolan Smith. Oh my Lord, that was tough to watch. So both of those guys look terrible. And then, by the way, I do want to ask you about some news that came out yesterday. Jeff McMullen reported Jaylen Carter was sat down for the first series because he was late to some sort of team activity during the week. What'd you make of that? Is that something to be concerned
Well, I
about?
was told the day of the game, I think I mentioned on a post-game show that it was punitive. I wouldn't be told what it was for. So evidently it was late to a team. But they sat him down. I mentioned it's like what you do in college. You do that you sit him, which is meaningless. You sit him down for the first series, and then he comes into the second series. And that's what happened. Is it troubling? Sure, it's troubling because obviously they felt it was bad enough to send a message. He still played more than any other interior defender.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good. It's not the end of the world, but it's not good because you have maturity issues, and that was one of the concerns. That's why I was the 9th pick in the draft, because people were concerned about certain maturity issues. I'm more concerned with how he's playing when he's out there. And part of it is, Chris Lindstrom, I mentioned, very good player, 2-time second team All-Pro. Again, you got to look at the opponent. So he's one of the better guards in the league. And he beat him a couple times, but, that was a nice back and forth battle. He got beat. I would say he got beat more than Chris got beat. And guess what? For all the talk about his talent, well, Lindstrom's the more proven player. So, maybe it shouldn't be that much of a surprise because that's a veteran guy who knows how to play and probably isn't immature. So maybe it shouldn't be a surprise, but he's got to get better. I don't think there's any question about that.
No doubt. All those guys in the defense have to be better, man. Jaylen Carter, Jordan Davis has to be better. Nolan Smith, I'm waiting for him to show up. I mean, John, we're in year 3 on Jordan Davis. I know you tell me about, I think the expectation's wrong on him. Has he done his role well, in your opinion? No, right? No. I mean, forget what everybody wants him to be in terms of rushing the pass. I'm not talking about that.
No, I'm very disappointed.
Being good at being Jordan Davis.
Yeah. No, he hasn't been. He hasn't been good.
Year 3. Man. I mean, how long can we give the dude to get it going?
He's been better than Carter.
Last week 2 he was, that's for sure.
But no, both of them. And that's where Big Fangio's building the foundation of this defense. Those two players. And those two players are shit in the bed through 2 weeks. And they better make the bed starting this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Because they are not going to be a good defense if Jaylen Carter and Jordan Davis do not perform. They're
that's
not.
my big worry coming into the day today. And then also, if we can't get anybody that can get after the damn quarterback, Bryce Huff. I mean, the film.
Yeah, that's a problem.
The film coming out on Bryce Huff, John, is it's not pretty, man. It's not. I read Jimmy Kempski this morning on Philly Voice, who put up a film review. He called him unplayable. It was so bad. He's getting ripped by tight ends, dude. 6 seconds, 7 seconds, getting held up by tight ends. I mean,
yeah, he's not.
It just does not look like a guy that can even come close to replacing what Hassan Reddick was.
Yeah, well, yeah, he hasn't played well. I think that's a little bit harsh, unplayable. He was especially bad against the run, which I know nobody cares about.
Well, but you're the worst run defense in the NFL. You got to care about it a little bit.
Well, you should, but
yeah,
it's right. Ironic. All they want to do is run the football offensively. They don't care about it defensively. They just want to get to the passer.
They can't do that either.
They can't do that either. Yeah, I mean, I think Big's got to go back. I think he was trying, and this is just speculation, obviously. We'll talk to Big on Thursday, I believe. I think he was trying to get, his confidence back, put him in there a little bit more on first downs because he was going with Brandon. I think he's got to scrap that and go with Brandon on rundowns and get Bryce Huff confident in rushing the passer. You're never going to be good against the run. I mean, but that either way, I say it all the time, either was Hassan Reddick, and everybody wants to make that comp. I get it. They didn't sign Bryce Huff to replace Hassan Reddick. They signed Bryce Huff because they knew they couldn't sign or he wasn't going to play under his contract.
Yeah, but when you're rebuilding a defense, you have to, like, if you factor, I'm going to lose Hassan Reddick, we have to do something to make up for that production. This is what they did, and then they drafted Nolan Smith. Neither of those two guys look like they can make up half of what Hassan Reddick did right now.
No, they both don't look great. Chip aside, Nolan was a little bit better. But yeah, you see those troubling moments. And with Bryce is just a crisis of confidence, and confidence is big with players. And some people aren't cut out to play in Philadelphia. Let's be honest.
And place to play, no doubt.
And if you can't handle it, it's probably going to continue to be ugly. So it's up to him. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to make any grandiose proclamations other than he hasn't played well for 2 weeks. And he hasn't been what they expected as pass rusher over those 2 weeks. And he better get better, and he better get better quickly. And that could speak to a lot of people on that front. But Hassan's not even playing, so
yeah, sure,
wasn't going to play here either. Unless they gave him $25 million. And they didn't want to. So that's sort of the decision. You can say, well, they should have. They had the money. Yeah, but that creates butterfly effects down the road. Says somebody else can come in and ask for this. And, it's a way more complicated than people make it out to be. And you can't just acquiesce to everybody at all times, especially if you think, a little bit of a descent is coming, and maybe maybe certainly short term, the Eagles aren't as good. Long term, maybe they made the right decision, but nobody cares about long term. I get that as well.
Last thing I want to talk about, we have 2 great guests planned. Mike Gill's in the green room. We're going to get to Mike in a second, and then we'll have Brandon Lee Goutwin in hour number 2. So 2 great guests for you today on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody in the chat already this morning. Hit that like button. John, Eagles lose Patrick Johnson to the New York Giants because of some roster moves they had to make once AJ went down. Your thoughts on losing, Patrick Johnson? I thought he was the best edge rusher through the preseason. We can't get any pressure on the quarterback, and now the Giants pick up Patrick Johnson. I know it's not that, maybe not that big.
Yeah, but, I did get a lot of people losing their minds that
I'm not losing my mind.
Patrick Johnson. I was surprised. Look, when people asked me who goes, because I knew they had to elevate one player. It was most likely always going to be Nick Gates because that was their deal with Nick. They were going to elevate him to the 53-man, promote him to the 53-man roster after his practice squad elevations were up. They had to do it a week early because AJ got hurt. So all these, and you needed Paris Campbell, and Paris Campbell gave you nothing. But anyway, when I speculated who would have to be cut or released or waived, when I didn't even think Patrick Johnson, I thought maybe Darian Kennard, maybe Eli Ricks, who doesn't play. These guys were inactive. Maybe even Devin White, who is, a healthy scratch and not involved in any way, any meaningful way. But I did not think Patrick Johnson, and it had sort of a Christian Ellis vibe in that there was no way the Eagles were getting. In fact, I was talking to somebody who seemed to be well aware they weren't getting them through waivers. So it is a little bit of a surprise they went with Patrick Johnson because I think they could have gotten some other players through waivers. But for whatever reason, they like the upside of guys like Kennard and Eli Ricks and don't want to lose them. And Patrick's more of a, he's far more, he played 24 snaps on special teams in the opener. That was second most on the team. I think Kaylee Ringo had 25, and then it was him at 24. So he had a specific role on the team. But the bottom line is they'd rather have guys who have upside to play on offense or defense long term.
I thought Patrick Johnson had some upside.
Yeah. I mean, this is his fourth year. They don't. Yeah, he did a nice job in the preseason. I think he was one of the most improved players. I said that, but he was never going to have a role on the defense. So that's sort of but while I say that, I'm a little bit surprised they went that direction because he means so much on special teams. So I think you're further hampering Michael Clay a little bit, but nobody cares about special teams either for poor Michael Clay.
Watch Patrick Johnson go out there and record a couple sacks with the New York Giants.
That ain't happened. I mean, the New York Giants are one of the worst teams in football, but they're better equipped on the pass rush. They have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, they do.
Patrick Johnson ain't playing ahead of that. So don't worry about it.
No way. But all right, let's get to our commercial break. I see Mike Gill in the green room. Thanks everybody for being here this morning. Hit that like button. Birds 365 will be right back in 3 minutes with Mike Gill.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.